Hey everybody, Christian from Treasure Town, and we're going to be mostly focused on not my face and more on a bunch of cool notes, but this is a pretty sweet one, and essentially I'm just going to be going over the basics of US currency history and tips for collecting it, and there's a lot to cover. I've got a handful of notes from the shop, also some stuff that I've got in stock, and it's going to be a cool video, so sit back and enjoy. We'll be talking about everything you need to know as a currency collecting 101. There's also going to be a little bit about world collecting. If you didn't know, I kind of started my first collection as a world typeset of currency. So anyways, let's get into it. I've got a lot of cool information planned. And here we've got an assortment of currency that probably looks pretty unfamiliar to a lot of you, and I'm going to be using it as a great place to kind of start out and talk about a lot of these notes and give you the basics so that you can maybe find what you're interested in. This segment is going to be the US notes, and then we're going to go to some world material briefly at the end. But I think I'm just going to kind of go in chronological order, even if it's not the easiest stuff to understand necessarily at the beginning. What I've got here is a $5 note from Manchester, and if you'll actually see, it says it was authorized November 20th, 1827. And a lot of people don't know this, but while we had coins that started being made by the federal government in 1792, we didn't really make any paper money on behalf of the federal government until the Civil War. The first $1 bill was in 1862. So before that, they had individual banks minting their own, or it's not really minting, but they were printing their own paper notes. There were over 8,000 entities that did so, and the Bank of Manchester, wherever that would have been, was one of the ones that did that. Now, I think one interesting thing is they obviously would not always trade for their face value. It wasn't like the United States was there to back that up. So you'd have to be careful about what you accepted. There was a lot of counterfeiting since nobody really knew what exactly each note looked like. There wasn't the security measures that they have today. This one doesn't have anything on the back. In fact, it's kind of been repaired. But this is just kind of an example of the paper currency that would have been circulating in the beginning of our times. After that, we see, I don't really have too much of the 1800s currency, but I think the big thing to note is that you have these larger dollar bills or, paper currency. So this was a $5 bill, and I'll just kind of compare it to a more modern, and this is even a special note, but this is a modern size $5 bill. It's significantly larger, and they shifted away from that, I think kind of in the late 1920s, and that was to kind of just conserve on ink and paper, and it saved the government some money. Now, I actually realized before I go there, we should talk about fractional currency, which the government made, but that was a lot in the 1860s, and I think a little bit beyond, but let's see if we can find the date. It says Samuel Dexter, he's a Secretary of the Treasury, and let's see if the date's on here. It probably will be. And it took me a while to find it, but right there it says series of 1873 under the 50 cents. So sometimes you gotta do a little bit of closer research. Thanks for watching. Let's get back to the video. The point being is that we also had fractional currency. It's a little bit cheaper to make in the short term than a coin, and those were widely used. So there were different denominations. There were 3 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents, 25 cents, lots of different stuff, and obviously 50 cents, but those were circulating. They didn't last super long. Then we kind of had a variety of currency. This is more of a 101, so I'm not getting super into it, but this is what a banknote $5 bill from 1905 would look like. And a big trend was that there were national notes, so it says national currency, and this was it was kind of issued, this was by Susquehanna. Some of them would say, First National Bank of, say, there could be a reasonable chance that your hometown, if you live on the East Coast, actually was making these. And there's some kind of in the Midwest, but there probably wasn't any Hawaiian or Alaskan territory banknotes back then. Basically, individual national banks would be issuing them. When we go to the national currency of 1929, this was from the Homer Bank of New York. That's a rare note, and often people collect from their hometown, or they collect unusual ones, or they try to get as many $20 bills from different national banks. It's kind of a really neat series. There can be some wild premiums if you have the right issuing entity. And they're all also, as you can see, pretty low serial numbers relative. This is 522, and it's well worn. But anyways, that's kind of the national banknote era. I think one other thing to note is how some of our currency seems to stay the same, and I should have the modern one here. I don't, but this is a $2 red seal, 1963 from Thomas Jefferson. But if we go to 53, it doesn't seem to change that much. Maybe a little bit of a design change there, just in terms of how the note is laid out. 1928, and then we can see that the size certainly changes, but the overall portrait and just the general note seems pretty familiar. Let's take a look at the back, because they're often really pretty on these older notes. This one's from 1917, and not not a note without any value. I actually kind of want to check out this, what the back of this looks like. Wow, that's really beautiful. I actually couldn't have brought that to mind in my own. I didn't have it in my mind what it looked like. Landing of the Pilgrims, but very dissimilar from anything that we have today. I think the other interesting trend that we can see, just as a heads up, is that on these $2 bills, we've got this 1928 F note, might be worth like 10, 15 bucks. Then this one is 1928A, and there's a lot of series that can make a big difference on a lot of the older ones in terms of their value. This A note might be worth 50 bucks, 75 bucks, somewhere in that range. Another thing that makes notes very valuable is this star. It doesn't really have quite as much of an effect on the newer notes, but for the older ones, it can often have outsized effects. So this might be, I don't know, a $3, $1 silver certificate that would be worth like $1.50 or $2 if it didn't have the star. But if one of these had a star, it would range up in value quite quickly. And that's just something to look out for on your currency, both the stars and what series it'll be. And sometimes a rare series and a rare star note can combine for some massive value. Now, I've got this $10 bill in front of me. It's been here for a while, and I just want to point something out. It says redeemable in gold on demand at the United States Treasury, or in gold or lawful money at any Federal Reserve Bank. So this isn't a gold certificate, but it says, it's not worth what a gold certificate would be worth, but it is redeemable in gold. I don't have any gold certificates, or else I'd have them. Those are a rare and more expensive note generally. Here we can see on this one, and there's something else special about it, but it says silver certificate. You could trade it in and get 4 silver quarters or 2 silver half dollars or a silver dollar from the bank if you went to exchange it. It was redeemable for silver. There were also 2 other special notes, the North African and Hawaiian notes. These were replacement notes in World War II that we made, and they were issued in those regions, and that way, if either Hawaii or North Africa was totally overrun, all of the money would be declared worthless, and the United States wouldn't incur any financial hit or give up any financial advantages. This note is from 1928. It's a $20 bill as well. Looks very similar to what we've got today, except that it's also redeemable in gold on demand. So wish I had some of those more expensive gold certificates just to show you, but it's kind of crazy to think that they could have exchanged this for a $20 gold, St. Gaudens at the time. They were both, $20. Now, lastly, I guess I just want to show, another silver certificate. This one is a $5 bill. This one is also a $5 bill. Both have Lincoln, but one's a red seal and not a silver certificate, whereas this is a silver certificate. I should know, I think that they would trade for the same amount, but they are definitely different. This being a star note is just another thing. Look for those. It will add some value. And I forgot to mention, there can be some physical errors. This isn't too crazy, but the serial numbers bumping up against the lettering of America, I think that that's significant, and it would command a slight premium. And then, lastly, I think we've already been over this one, but just another star note. These were made 1935 to 1957. Though when it says series of 1935, it doesn't mean it was made in 1935. It could extend quite a bit beyond that. So E would kind of denote, and I should have probably looked it up before the video, but a series of 1935 would have been very close to 1935. Then 35A would be later, 35B, 35C, 35D. That might have been made from 48 to 50, just for example. 1957, obviously those first ones will be made in 1957, but they might extend beyond then. And then when silver was stopped being made, I'm curious when the silver certificates kind of rotated out. Obviously, they had to declare that you couldn't exchange them for silver at some point. And I looked it up, and it was in March 1964 that the Treasury Secretary announced that they wouldn't be redeemable for silver. But yeah, they unfortunately don't have that power today, or else they would probably all be redeemed or just worth a lot more than $1. And now we have an introductory kind of overview of the US currency. We still use it often today, and I'll talk about world currency after this in the next segment. And then I guess now would be a good time to just say, you can do all sorts of things. You could do a typeset where you try to get one of the, on the $2 bills. You could try to get one from 1928A, 28B, 28C, all the way up to 28G. You could also try to get just one 1928, and then a 1917, and then I can't see the other ones, but a 1953 and a 1963. You could also try to just get one of each type. So you get a $2 red seal, then you could get a $5 red seal, and try to get the $10 silver certificate, which I don't have in front of me, and the $10 this redeemable in gold green seal. There's lots of possibilities. You could do a fractional currency, you could do a national currency, kind of just trying to get as many different banks as possible. Again, so much out there, and good luck collecting it. Let's show off what a world currency collection might look like and recount how I really started getting serious about collecting anything numismatic. And forgive me if this is going to be too much of a trip down memory lane, but this is my currency collection written out in my 10-year-old handwriting, block letters. Pretty cool. Anyways, there's so many ways to collect, and what a quick flip through will kind of show you is how different and varied, and there's so many different colors that world currency offers, and that's something that's fun about the world currency. It's often also reasonably cheap to buy some pretty cool looking notes. So, if we flip to this page, it looks like we've got Bermuda, Barbados, Belarus. Let's flip to another random page. Gibraltar, Greece, Guatemala, and we'll do it one more time. We'll see what we've got. We've got Poland, Peru, and the Philippines, including when the Philippines were occupied by the Japanese government in World War II. So the point is, there's so much cool stuff out there. It can be acquired, again, pretty cheaply online. There's Mozambique, Myanmar, and Morocco. So the point is that, yeah, there's so much out there. You can do it where you collect everything from, all the Mozambican currency that you could have. You could try a typeset collection for Europe. I think that's Hungary. You could try to get all of the European ones. You could do, everything from, a certain time period. Let's see. I think that's from Iceland. Maybe that's near World War II time. Let's see. Well, I'm not sure, but you could get all World War II currency. You could try to do what I'm doing and get just one from anything that ever issued currency. So there's so many ways to collect. I should probably do a full showing of this for a video down the road, but that's how I do world currency. Really fun, and a much different kind of realm compared to US currency. But as I said, there's so much to offer in one of the less explored kind of areas of numismatics. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe for more content, and get in touch with me on my website, treasuretownYT.com, Facebook, Treasuretown, Instagram @TreasuretownYT, or Twitter @Treasuretown_YT, and I'll look forward to seeing you on some of my future vids.